guys. So we've been talking a lot during this conference about video and how video is everywhere. Talk, each of you, about how you sort of evaluate all these platforms and how distributed you are. Joe, why don't you start?
Sure. So for People in Entertainment Weekly, distributed video strategy is vitally important to the brand. I mean, I think always our owned and operated kind of on-site experience is going to be the foundation of our video strategy because that's where we're really monetizing the most effectively. But we really look for all the other value propositions that we can drive from distributed platforms. So we've been hearing a lot about Snapchat Discover over the past 2 days. People is also a Snapchat Discover partner, and that has been an integral platform for us to really get the brand in front of new audiences and to really kind of like kick around new ideas for how our editors are creating content. Facebook is extremely important. Instagram is extremely important for video. So we really are, we take the all-in approach with making sure that our content is well placed on our site, but also well distributed across all those different platforms where our audience actually is engaging with the brand.
Jennifer, how about you? Are you all in with
Yeah,
She Knows?
yeah. She Knows Media reaches 90 million people a month, so we definitely have our sites as our main platform, but we'll go wherever our audience goes, and pretty much our audience is women. So if we want to be on YouTube, if we want to be on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is, we'll go depending on what we're publishing.
Now, as head of business development, Joe, what sort of criteria do you apply to these platforms when you look at the monetization schemes versus just building an audience?
Sure. So I think as a BD person, ultimately my goal is always to create a revenue stream. But I think it's also really important to understand that there are different values that you can drive from kind of a distributed strategy. So I think it's interesting about about Snapchat Discover, and I think what is so exciting for publishers to be on that platform is that monetization was an opportunity right out of the gate. I think that's a little bit rare in some of the other distributed platform approaches. Everyone is still struggling to understand how really to drive dollars from Facebook video. Instagram is still a little bit tricky. So the value proposition for revenue isn't there. So what else can you drive from it? So for us, it's about building the brand. It's about, we're brands of storytellers, and these are great platforms for telling stories. So how do we, kind of continue that conversation with our users and our consumers on those platforms?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. We look at video as a way not only to monetize and grow traffic, but also we feel we have a very big responsibility in the women's lifestyle space. So we just acquired a company yesterday called Hello Flow, if anyone can guess what that's about. It's for females through all different milestones. I love getting to stand on stage and talk about periods and menopause and postpartum, but one of that is to really, we feel a responsibility in this space to talk about those things. So that's also selling a subscription. So really video can lead to a lot of different ways to monetize. It's not just what you would think of. It could be buying a period starter kit.
Yeah, I saw those great viral videos a couple years ago. Joe, you guys have been experimenting a lot with Facebook Live. What have you found works well?
Sure. So Facebook Live is actually really exciting for us. We love the idea of kind of taking that connection that YouTube and Vine has established with the audience, whether that's through influencers or content creators, and almost taking it to the next level. There's even more of a kind of a connection there because it's actually happening in real time. For us, it's not like we're going to have right now anyway, it's not like we're going to have a Facebook Live strategy that says every day at this time we're going to have some sort of a live experience. I don't think that's the way to kind of win on that platform. It's really about being opportunistic and really kind of like focusing in on those moments that matter to the audiences on the Facebook platform and really to pop culture at large. So we did some really fun things around the Bachelor finale, and Jess Cagle, who's our editor-in-chief, actually during the commercial breaks kind of did a Facebook Live video. Those drove over 500,000 views, which is pretty good for the medium on that platform that isn't necessarily fully baked yet. So it's almost like, I don't want to say second screen, but it's almost like how can we complement the conversation going on in the pop cultural zeitgeist with something additive that isn't a live format.
Yeah, we talked about this a little backstage. We are still figuring out our Facebook Live strategy. It's still pretty new. I think it's about 2 months. We've been more focused on building out, more content creators. We just got a new chief content officer who came over from Refinery 29, Susan Kaplow. So we're really building up our content creators and acquisitions like HelloFlow, and then we'll work on our Facebook Live strategy. But we're not far behind.
A lot of your content is lifestyle, and
Yeah.
it's very evergreen, right? It's very servicey. Does something like that, is it tricky to translate to Facebook Live?
I guess we'll see. I mean, I think, people, you see with the YouTube shows where people will watch someone put on makeup for an hour, So I think that is a good example of stuff that will work for Facebook Live. I think we're all trying to figure out about this live streaming, and I think there's a lot of things with She Knows Media, whether it be lifestyle, family, people will watch pets for hours, and we do that too. So it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. We've been playing around with YouNow, which is a kind of live streaming network platform and social network driven platform. And there's this whole culture of people that will watch kids just do homework in their room, like for hours. I mean, I don't get it, but I think from a lifestyle perspective, I think there's just so many unknowns about what content will work and what content won't. I think it's so interesting that it's so wide, these platforms can become so widely distributed that there's almost like a niche for everyone, whatever they're looking for to kind of like see and kind of engage with. There's like opportunity out there.
So what's the application for EW and people on YouNow?
So the way that we've been working on YouNow was really around kind of tapping into scaled audiences in the beauty and style space. So you were talking about kind of like, kind of makeup tutorials. How can we kind of like create a complementary content experience that might tie to something like a red carpet package or some sort of a style execution? We've really stayed in that space. I think the other really interesting space on a platform like YouNow is around kind of like emerging artist discovery. There's a lot of musicians on the platform that are really just kind of like using that as a way to get their name and their sound out there. So they're, we've been thinking through like, what does it mean for like Entertainment Weekly or people to kind of almost be like a talent finder using those platforms to kind of bubble up talent.
Who knew watching kids do homework was a thing?
Or like,
It is now.
yeah, or unboxing, right?
Yeah. Right. So monetization is one thing. On the other hand, you have just the whole challenge of creating quality video. You guys have done you've done video on your site for a long time. What does it mean to translate that to a Snapchat, to a Facebook Live?
Sure. Well, we work with thousands of influencers who are everyday people, and that doesn't mean they are all, always comfortable in front of a camera. They may be comfortable sitting behind their blog or behind the screen. So, we're really encouraging them to, be more in front of the camera and do things live, whether it's Facebook Live, whatever it may be, because they're relatable. And like we're talking about the doing homework or unboxing or watching babies and puppies playing, people are interested. And so these influencers have such massive followings, and besides reading what they're writing, people want to see them. So I think that will definitely be the direction it goes.
And for us, I think, we look at it almost like, when we staff out the teams to kind of create video for these platforms, whether it's Discover or Facebook or even Instagram, I almost look at them now as almost platform programmers as opposed to the traditional editor, because what we really want is that people to come in and understand how to create authentic video for that platform and to really understand what motivates a user to want to go deeper into that piece of content. So it's actually been really a very educational, interesting year for us because we're playing around with a lot of new formats that we never played around with before. We're trying to understand things like what's the right runtime on this platform versus a platform like Snapchat Discover. So it's like exciting in that there's a ton of learning going on right now, but I think it's fundamentally changing how we approach the editorial staffing for these sorts of platform experiences because we need experts that understand inherently what people are looking to kind of engage in on that platform.
Well, you can take the same content and you have to put it in 10 different formats depending on the platform. It's so much different from television when here, everyone's looking at it the same exact way, where here you take the same content, has to be different on Instagram, Facebook Live, your site, whatever it may be.
So when you have to, again, like to your point, you have to repurpose the same piece of content multiple times. Is that sort of a struggle for you philosophically? There's a trade-off. If you're spending time doing that, you're not creating new original content. And how do you sort of strike that balance?
Well, I think that everyone has to do it. So it's sort of a necessary evil, but really taking this content and making it more snackable bites for these different platforms. And then we find, even with our influencers, some work much better with Facebook, some work much better with Instagram, some work better with Snapchat. So when we work with brands and we work with our influencers, we go to the people who are most comfortable in that format and in that platform and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, what's interesting is like we're actually taking a little bit of an off-center approach where like, a lot of the content that we're producing for a platform like Snapchat Discover or even Instagram is just original to that platform.
Right.
So I would say our Discover editions are probably between 70 and 80% original content just for that platform. And obviously it takes, we've heard a lot about like the resources and the kind of the staffing you need in order to support that model. We have 10 full-time employees working on our Snapchat Discover channel across art direction, editorial, and video production. But the payoff is there for us because the content is really resonating with the audience, and it's driving home the authenticity and the true nature of what the content needs to be on that platform.
So the payoff is there in terms of ad revenue, but are you doing anything to repurpose that content elsewhere so it can have a second life?
So I mean,
On Snapchat.
on Snapchat, I mean, we're definitely using it more as like a test bed for different types of content that work with that audience. So obviously, People is a traditional legacy
I'm the first
media
generation in
brand.
my
Our core
family
audience
that I was
is
born in
a
America.
little
Anybody
bit
else
older,
first generation
but we're
people?
very
Yeah,
focused on
yeah.
trying to figure out what
9
that
reasons
where,
all
how are we
first-gen
tapping into that
kids
next
see themselves
generation
in
of
Aziz
kind of
Ansari.
consumers that really will love the People
You
brand
feel
or
the
love
pressure of
Entertainment
immigrant
Weekly
parents'
brand.
career
So we're really, instead of, I wouldn't say we're
Somehow
repurposing the content, but we're using it as a way to kind of teach and learn what the forward-facing content strategy needs to be so that we can speak authentically to that group of people, to that group of consumers.
So not repurposing yet, but do you think down the road you might look into doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, as everything continues to shift to mobile, I think that, things like, we're all, struggling, or not struggling, we're all now wrapping our heads around the vertical video kind of approach. So, as we create more and more content for something like Snapchat Discover in the vertical video kind of layout, it's only natural that we would start to distribute that out through other platforms that are mobilely engaged.
We have a couple minutes if anybody has questions for Joe or Jennifer. Any questions in the audience? Are there any platforms that you've just said, no, this is not for us, there are too many out there and we can't be everywhere?
We haven't really yet. I think we continue to watch every day where the female audience is. And if we feel it makes sense for a certain piece of content to be on a certain platform, we'll try it. I think that you really, as a publisher, have to be open to that at all times. So we're not anti any platform right now.
Yeah, and we take the same approach. I mean, there are definitely, we have to be smart and tactical about how we kind of, enter into partnerships with different platforms, but we're open to testing and kind of learning on every single platform.
Yes.
With Facebook Live and Periscope and celebrities and newsmakers regaining control over the relationship with their audience, how do you see the value as a publisher? How do you see this evolve, and what's the added value you're going to provide to your readers?
Sure. So interestingly, we've actually been getting a lot of inbound requests from talent to actually work with us on Facebook Live videos. So I think they see it as a really authentic way to speak to an audience that they know is really interested in them. Since we have a very clear idea of kind of the celebrities that pop on a site like people.com or on all of our distributed platforms. So I think the overall sense that we're getting is that it's a complementary kind of relationship between talent and what we're doing on Facebook Live. And that helps us to really just give them an additional platform to be themselves and to speak authentically and directly to the audience, all through the lens of People, which is very positive, very, very celebratory of the celebrity experience. A lot of celeb in there.
A lot of, a lot of celebration.
Well, we're just about out of time. We have time for maybe one more quick question, if anybody has one.
Thanks. I saw you, I know you both have apps in the App Store. Do you get much traction on your own apps versus where other channels?
For She Knows, we're very proud of our audience. So we're 70% mobile, and so we definitely want, and we talked about this too, we want to drive people to our own platform for sure. But again, I think it's, you know, for example, with our Hello Flow acquisition and Half Moon Party and Camp Gyno, those are much longer form, you know, video, much, you know, a lot more to look at. So it makes sense for it to be on YouTube. It makes sense for it to be on a bunch of different platforms. So yeah, number one, we of course want to drive traffic to our own stuff, but we'll go where the audience is.
Right, and we take a similar approach.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, to be completely honest, you know, I think that we are still trying to figure out what our, you know, owned and operated app strategy is. What's the right kind of like theme? What's the right kind of like content flow within those experiences to get people to want to engage with them just as much as they do with Facebook's app or
Right.
Snapchat's app. So right now, you know, we're trying to figure that out, and then ultimately we're still going where the audience is.
Great. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now we're going to move on